Wow. Okay, it's quite crazy to be on um, such a huge stage, quite literally and figuratively for the artists that have been here before us. So we've had like Jimi Hendrix, the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd. It was a key venue for the acid house scene as well. But when when they were doing their thing, I don't think anyone was talking about operational efficiency, or I didn't hear a single word about international expansion or any of those operational complexities that you brands might be experiencing. So we're here to change that for you today. Okay, hope you're excited. We've heard a hell of a lot this morning. A lot of really great stuff around attracting customers, keeping those customers, giving the customers the right style of communication. But what we're here to talk about is what happens after that buy button has been pressed. The journey that those customers then go on to actually receiving the right good at the right time. We've got some really key insights to hear from the guys today. So thanks for joining me for this panel. Yeah, because the key stat that I always come back to is that this was a study we did with Trustpilot, was that 77% of negative reviews that customers leave on websites are due to operational issues rather than the products themselves. So we've got to get these things right. We've got to get the right product delivered to the person at the right time. So anyway, I'll sit down. I don't know why I'm still standing up.
You look good standing up, it's all right.
Oh, cheers. And I'll go to my pre-written questions. Natasha, I'd love to start with you, because your model has been operationally intense from day one. So LAEL started on Deliveroo, and you're now building your own delivery operation. What triggered that decision, and what has the reality of it actually look like?
Yeah, so thank you for having me here today. So for those that don't know, LAEL is an online hair and beauty retailer. So we deliver all your favorite hair, makeup and beauty brands to your door in under an hour. So basically like the Deliveroo, but for beauty. So we actually started on Deliveroo. I feel like that was a great starting point for me because coming from a background in children's social care, I didn't know much about logistics or beauty or anything like that. Sorry. So yeah, so that was an amazing starting point for me. But then I've noticed that Deliveroo owns the customer data. They own, everything to do with the customers. I can't take. So any emails that customers give me, I can't send, customers any emails or anything like that. So it was important for me, and some advice from my mentor that I got as well was to create my own systems, to kind of build out my own systems, collect my own data, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so great. Coming to you now. Yeah, just want to basically you to introduce yourselves and talk about some of the brands that you've worked with in the past.
Yeah, so I work for Brightpearl, which is a retail-focused ERP. We also have a forecasting module. So we work with a number of kind of friends of DTC, so Sculpted by Amy, Current Body, Delilah, Lanx. But yeah, we're working with brands anywhere from kind of 2 million all the way up to 100 million plus.
Cool. Cheers, Greg. And Andy, bringing you into the conversation, you'll want to hear a little bit more about what you do and want to talk a little bit around international expansion and kind of what can break first operationally for those brands.
Nice. Well, thanks for having us. My name's Andy. I've got a group of businesses that globally expand e-commerce brands. Here today representing our software business, Expandly. And essentially, we help businesses to expand into new regions. That's ultimately what we do, and that's what we're here to do. I want to pick up on something you said earlier. Everyone's been talking so far today about all the sexy stuff. Sales, marketing, leads. But the winning is in the operations, like you just said, right? It's the winning in e-com is in the boring shit that people don't, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, that people don't enjoy talking about and doing, right? Everyone's focused on, I've got to grow my brand, I've got to do headline revenue. No one's talking about the boring stuff, which is where you win and lose as a brand. And if you're in the 55% at the moment, it's because you're focused on sales and marketing. The people that are winning are focusing on the operational, the logistics and things like that are making the significant differences to taking their brand from where they is bimbling along to profitable. And everyone wants to talk about 7-figure, 8-figure, 9 figures. The metric isn't how much revenue you've got. The metric you need to focus on is how much profit are you generating? Because you can have a 9-figure business and generate 10 grand's worth of profit, but you could have a 300 grand business and have 30 grand profit. I can assure you, you'll have a lot less stress in a 300 grand business. So you've got to focus on the profit, and the profit is all in here. You can do upsells, downsells, cross-sells, oversells, whatever. It's in the operational, boring systems and processes.
Yeah, thank you. And Greg, when do those brands tend to start feeling those creaks, and when do they start to come to want to talk to you to sort their operation out?
I think it's when complexity is added. So if when you start out, you're probably doing things on the cheap, on a spreadsheet, but then change comes along, you expand into a new warehouse, you sell on a new sales channel, you launch new products, and suddenly pain is felt, and you sell out of your bestseller, or you get those negative customer reviews because there's operational inefficiencies. So that's when businesses are kind of coming to us and saying, like, we want, kind of like you said, Natasha, we want our data in one place where the whole business can have visibility of it. So yeah, that's when they come to talk to us.
Nice. Natasha, as you said in that great intro, you're building logistics, partnerships, and a platform at the same time yourself, which is awesome. But how do you decide when to put a system around it and when to keep things manual when resources are limited?
Yeah, good question. Also, this is my first panel talk, so everyone please just bear with me.
Round of applause for Natasha for the first panel.
I'll try. But yeah, so I feel like as an early founder anyway, because LAEL is only 11 months old, so we are still very new and resources is still very limited anyway. So everything for me is quite manual. So deliveries are still done in-house. We don't, go to people like externally for deliveries. Like everything's done family and friends, basically. I feel like what I systemize a lot is my comms, so like my email marketing, my social media, things that kind of repeat itself, I systemize. Things that I'm not sure of right now. So brand partnerships, deliveries, things like that, I keep manual.
Cool. Nice. Andy, so when that complexity moves into cross-border, we've got all things to consider. We're talking VAT, customs, labeling, warehousing. What do founders consistently underestimate about going cross-border?
So a lot of founders, e-com brands, when they're thinking about growing, scaling their business, one of the things they may consider is expansion, right? And as founders, entrepreneurs, there's typically two types of founders and entrepreneurs. There's ones that will want all the data, and there's the ones that will go hell for it and just crack on with it. And the problem with both of those is that one will get stuck at every point, not understanding with the issues that they're going to face, and the other one will never do it because it seems too complex. So there's three things you need to solve when you're expanding. You need to solve compliance, and that's tax and product compliance. There's a whole load of legals and payments in there, but ultimately is business tax and product compliance. The second thing is logistics. How do you get the goods from factory all the way through to your consumer as quickly as possible? And then the third thing is sales channels. And at each step of the journey, everyone can get tripped up, because if you don't understand what you're doing and you don't understand the complexities of where you're going and the internationalization of what you're trying to achieve, that's what happens. So but where do they typically get held up? Is in their own mindset. They get held up in their mindset of, I can't do this, it's too complicated, or let's go hell for leather and do it, and they get held up at customs and at every other step as well. So when you're thinking about expanding, it's about thinking about those three separate areas: compliance, logistics, and sales channels. And how do you manage those effectively? And what resource have you got and capital available to make that work? Because where they get stuck is that the founder and entrepreneur that's got a solo business, a relatively small business, doesn't have a team, they can't do everything. It's impossible for you to be able to scale your business overseas if you don't have a team. So really, the bit that most people get stuck on is the resource to deliver it effectively. Because when you expand, it'd be like, well, expansion didn't work for me. And when you ask the question of, well, why didn't it? Is, well, I expanded with one SKU and only sent half the stock, but I had no money for ads. You know, that's not expansion. That's just hope. You know, that's not really what you're trying to achieve. Expansion is about having a strategy about expansion and not a hope or a business plan with a let's try Germany. That's not a business plan. That's not a strategy. It's just hoping and praying it's going to work. So most people get stuck, coming back to the original point, by not having the right resource and time to put in it. Most businesses, for those people who have got businesses, set up businesses, most business owners don't take any money out of the business for the first 3 years. So why would, when you expand to a new market and essentially setting up a new business, take money out for the first 3 years? I'm not saying there's no money to be made in that time. What I'm saying is you've got to invest in the future of the business. So you need resource and capital, and that's where most people get stuck.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. That's really insightful. Yeah. So one of the main things that people want to buy with that capital is stock. And when we're talking about expansion and growing, and whether that's expanding locally or expanding internationally, we're going to start to be increasing the amount of stock that we need to purchase. And Greg, I know you're a bit of an expert in stock forecasting, but yeah, I want to know what the impact of poor inventory planning has on a business.
I mean, really, your product is your business, and the success of getting that purchase order right is potentially success, the difference between success and failure. If you sell out of your best-selling product, then you lose that customer, and potentially, then they go to competitors. If you buy too much and then you're stuck with that product and you haven't got the cash flow, that really hinders your business. So I would say it is absolutely critical that you get it right. I think also so many businesses don't really understand how they're making money. Kind of like what you're saying, you'll have businesses who are even as big as kind of 30, 50 million pound, and they come to us and they say, we don't really understand our cost of goods sold. That's what we need to find out. And, I was speaking to a business recently, 30 million pound business, and he realized that his top 12% of sellers he was losing money on. And actually, once he got the data from us, he could then see how to price appropriately. So it's about getting it right, and it's about understanding those kind of points in your business where problems are occurring.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and Natasha, from your side, it can't be that straightforward to get the brands to partner with you on a wholesale or consignment. So yeah, what's the hardest part of working on that supply chain?
I think for me, it's more about credibility because, as I said, as an early retailer, most brands won't trust you with the stock, especially because I work on a consignment model most times. So I hold stock, and then when the stock sells, I get a percentage, they get a percentage. Now, of course, going to brands and asking for that, it's not always easy, and most brands do say no, but I don't always take no for an answer, and I like to go around the back door always. But I just think it's about getting connections with people in PR. Make sure you have articles about your business. Be consistent on social media as well, so that people can see that what you're doing makes sense. And that even though you are early, you still know what you're talking about and what you're kind of doing as well.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Cool. So I've been told we've only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to ask you guys one more question each. Andy, I'm going to come to you first, and I'm going to say I've got 3 in front of me, but I'm going to choose this one here. Andy, at what point does DIY stop making sense? When does a founder need expert guidance rather than DIY international expansion? And how do they know they've hit that point?
Nice. I'm going to come from this from a completely different angle, from a I sell expansion. I'm going to come from this from a business owner perspective. I've had 18 businesses, I've acquired 8, I've started, numerous businesses, and the thing that I learned too late on in my journey was about how I moved to the next stage, because I started selling on Amazon and eBay in 2008-9 during the financial crash. I needed to earn some extra cash and have side hustles. That's where my business journey pretty much started. And then since then, I've had wedding photography businesses, sports businesses, 3D printing. I've done lots of things. Many of those have worked and many of those haven't. And when you're building a business, you just don't know what you don't know. And you can go as many events as you want and as many courses, but it's nothing like having someone sat next to you, supporting you to grow the business. And you can have coaches and all this sort of stuff. But really, the big thing that the DIY thing is, yes, it gets you started, gets you sorted. But the thing I learned too late was that by giving away equity with someone who was ahead of me of the journey would help me to fast track where I am today. At each step of the journey, we now let equity go to someone who's ahead of me of the journey. We've just set up a private equity fund to acquire e-commerce 3PLs globally. And in order to do that, I don't know anything about private equity, right? I literally zero idea. So what I've done is I've given someone some equity in that to help me to do it. And if I'd done that in all of my businesses along the journey, I'd have been a lot further along the line. Now, coming back to the actual question of I suggest that in order for you, DIY works if you're just trying to scrabble it through. Expansion doesn't work DIY. It doesn't. You need resource and capital to be able to do that, and you need experts in your corner to do that. Now, whether you give someone equity to help you to do that, or whether you partner with someone like Expandly to do that, is completely up to you. But having experts sat next to you that have been on the journey, done the journey, and have a proven track record are the ones that you want in the seat next to you, supporting you on that journey.
Cool. Thanks so much. Greg, so from your side, when things are starting to strain, but resources are tight, how should founders think about systems investment when cash is tight, but growth is accelerating?
So the reason I'm looking at my phone is I want to read out a quote, which I think is really helpful. This was from a customer of Brightpearl, and he said, "There's a philosophy in e-commerce that life begins with the hustle. The focus is product, sales, and marketing. But when you grow, it's about processes and people. If you don't switch that focus, everything will break and you will never scale." And I just think that's an excellent quote. I think I found it to be very true in my own experience. We can obviously share that quote with you, but it's a really helpful switch to, you're obviously new to your business. You've got to just get it off the ground, but there comes a point where you have to say, okay, now we need to invest in systems. We need to invest in processes and people.
Cool. Thanks, Greg. And finally for you, Natasha, for the founders in the room who are building operationally complex businesses without big teams and big budgets, those lean teams, what is the one thing you wish you had put in place earlier?
I think it's what Andy said. I think it's definitely asking questions and seeking for investors, I'd say early on, because we're looking for investors now, but I think one place that I did go wrong is I think I left it a bit too long. So I'd say definitely ask questions early on. Try find investors that are experts in their field at what you struggle with that can help you. I'm currently being mentored by the Soho House leadership team. And one thing that my mentor told me was that, it's good to have investors, but you kind of should have looked at it quite earlier on to kind of get your business off the ground a bit quicker. So I think definitely just that.
Great. Cool. And that's all from us in the panel today. So give a round of applause. Thank you.